Hey guys, I'm going to show you how I made my Furby carrier. Forewarning, I use hot glue in this video. Please be careful. Please don't hurt yourself. Use supervision if needed. I also use a kind of thin fabric in this video, but I recommend using a thicker fabric. Thicker fabric is more difficult to work with, but it ends up looking better overall. I used leftover denim for this one right here. I started by cutting a strip of cardboard that was about 10 inches by 3 inches. This is the lid from my drink when I went to go see Longlegs in the movie theater, and I used it as my stencil for the circle base. I traced 2 more circles out onto this annoying wrinkly fabric. The circle ended up being about 4.5 inches in diameter. I traced around the cardboard rectangle all around the fabric, but made sure to leave about 1/2 inch margin on the bottom. The second rectangle I traced around the cardboard, but left a 1/2 inch margin on all 4 sides of the rectangle, not just the bottom. Although I didn't measure anything at all during this whole project, I kind of just eyeballed the entire thing. Using the plastic lid, I rounded the corners of the cardboard. I traced around the circle again, but I left a 1/2 inch margin on this one too. I glued the larger circle of fabric onto the circle of cardboard. I went around the edges of the circle with my scissors and cut these 1/2 inch feathers. That's what I just call it, feathering, to make it easier to glue down later. I then, one by one, glued each of those feathers down on the back of the cardboard. Took a long time and it was really annoying, and I burned my fingers a whole lot. Then I glued the large rectangle of fabric all the way around. I trimmed this bit just to make it easier for myself. Then I did the feathering only on the curved part of the rectangle. I glued the feathering down first, but then glued down the rest of the fabric all the way around using the 1 inch margin. I rounded the corners of the smaller piece of fabric and then glued it down to cover the raw edges. You should glue anywhere that cardboard or edge touches the fabric, but don't glue the bottom flaps together like this. You want those to be separate. I used some safety pins to just keep the top layer out of my way while I worked around the edge. Between the 2 layers of fabric, I glued the circular base all along the raw edge of the rectangle. I then feathered the margin of the outside layer of fabric. Then again, I glued all of those down too. And I took out my pins, and then I feathered the margin of the inside layer of fabric. And of course, I glued all of those down too. And then I glued one of the original circles of fabric over top to cover up everything and give it a cleaner look. Unfortunately, because my choice of fabric was kind of thin, you could see some of the hot glue through, but it's okay, the Furby will cover it up. I then cut this 2.5 inch wide strip that was about 13 inches long. It actually ended up not being long enough, so I would recommend cutting one that's more like 15 or 16 inches long. I folded and glued the edges inward to create this cleaner looking strap that was about 3/4 of an inch wide. I glued the strap to the sides and bottom of the rest of the carrier. I folded over and glued the very ends on both sides to create loops where I could attach a fixture for the strap that goes across my body. The one side was a little short. Oops. I made 2 more straps for the safety straps. These ended up being about 1 inch wide, so the original piece of fabric was about 3 inches wide before I folded it over to glue. I forgot to film this part, but I used my extra circle of fabric to cover the entire bottom because it looked kind of ugly, so. And I burned myself yet again. I cut up some Velcro. One piece was about 2 inches, the other one was about 3 inches, and then I glued them onto both safety straps to keep my Furby in. And that's about it. All that's left is to attach a strap to both of the loops, and your Furby carrier is ready to wear. Thank you so much for watching.